Welcome back to another live Q&A where we will answer your questions. And I think something that comes up more between the lines, I would say, is the topic threats. It's not something somebody's asking about, but it's something that is appearing in many ways. And for those who are using Slack, they probably know what threats are. And we have seen many don't know. So the thing is, threads, for those who don't know, is in a collaborate in a communication tool. When you write a topic, you say something like, "Did you know anything about Tana? Did you know? Did you know?" Or better example, Paco, help me.
Well,
What
at
what
any
about
moment
this?
you can.
Okay,
Oh,
let's. What about the latest Tana release? Okay, what about the latest Tana update? Then in our life, in our world, in the paperless movement, Paco would go in and opens a thread with this topic and replies in there. So I can then reply to his reply. The difference is here, it all sticks to this initial question, what do you think about the latest Tana release? However, collaborating with a lot of other companies and getting also people in Slack for communication and collaboration, we more and more see people replying directly in the chat below. So what about Tana? They open another chat. They say the answer is, well, it's I like it. Then you don't already know how to reply to this. Do I go now to my initial thing and open a thread to reply in there to force this person back into the thread? Or do I reply in a thread to the reply? It's confusing when we just talk about it. But for Paco and me, it's so obvious in the meantime, because it's second nature to use threads for communication, that it's really popping the moment somebody doesn't do this.
yeah, totally, totally. And the point is that I think that, in my opinion, the implementation on Slack is wrong. Okay, for newbies, because what happens is that when you press enter, then you are immediately releasing the message that you are writing, and I think that that doesn't help. Uh,
Well,
I always activate in any communication tool, even on ClickUp, the command enter to send the message that you want to send. Because if not, then the moment you press enter to create a new line in your mind, you are sending the message. And on top of that, you don't reply by replying in thread. That it's something that it becomes second nature because, for instance, you love to see how that thread goes in the right panel, and that's pretty comfortable. No, it's like, well, you can apply this even to replies in simple messaging system like WhatsApp, for instance. I hate when people start pressing just one line per message instead of just writing and pressing send, and then you receive 5 notifications just for usually a stupid message, okay? Because what usually happens. And well, that's a little bit the same, no? For instance, whenever you are inside a group on WhatsApp, nobody uses, well, nobody. N- A lot of people doesn't use the reply to inside that it's something that, for instance, Google Chat has implemented recently. It's amazing how a corporate chat wasn't using this reply, and then it became a mess. No, the different. Fortunately, now they have the thread. So little by little, okay, 8 years after Slack, Google implement something like that in the corporate world, no? And I think that that's one of the most important things to set up the command plus enter or control enter if you're using Windows whenever you can. Okay, I think that, for instance, that's also useful on LinkedIn, for instance, that the moment you press enter, you don't send the message, and I think that that gives you the pause that you need to really start using that thing. That I think that is the combination of the two things, okay? Because I see many people that not even don't reply in the thread, but also they send two different new threads to reply to something, because he creates something, presenter, then he's writing, and then the moment that you are managing a huge amount of messages, that becomes a completely mess because you have different conversations in the same line. You can only scroll up and scroll down, and well, you're completely lost. And also because we something we use is constantly making references using Slack or tools from the outside to refer to a thread. So if you don't have the whole thread in a thread, then it becomes a nightmare. It's a nightmare, literally.
Yeah. So Slack has the option that if you hit enter, you're not sending, you're actually making a new line. So you just have to activate this in the settings. But as you said, it's not beginner friendly because the first setup is always when you hit enter, it is
Correct.
sent. And I agree with the threads, with the referencing. That's really the annoying thing. So when we talk to externals, we don't want to look, forcing these people into our rules and so on. So we don't want to, we are always humble. But in the back end, we see the mess then when we try to refer to this conversation in our single source of truth in ClickUp. We make some notes there. Then we refer to one and then it is scattered. And as Paco already mentioned, as long as you have one topic, of course, then you can stay in one chat and talking about this one topic over and over. But immediately you have another topic appearing, then somebody refers back to the previous topic, and then you have a complete mess. And I don't understand. It's just such an easy mindset change once you understand what threads are all about and where they actually all appear. As Paco already mentioned, they're all over the place nowadays. If you go to X and you post something, there's nobody posting a random post somewhere answering to this post without even mentioning you. There's a reply button and you're starting a thread. So when people create threads on X, it's nothing different than replying to their own topic that they had on top.
Yes, and it's also important to remember that there threads to a certain topic or conversation that you have, because whenever something pops up related to that thing, you try to look for that thread and add the new information or whatever there is, if possible, because the moment that you go back in the future to that thread, you have the whole context, the information, everything. That's pretty useful. For instance, talking about tasks on ClickUp, for instance, or project or whatever, because what threads allow is to encapsulate a topic, something related to just a certain thing. And that's pretty important. And that, as you have just said, the thread becomes a single source of truth for that object, no matter if it's a conversation, a topic, a task, an object, whatever. And that's pretty important, because you go there and you find everything there. It's pretty useful to see the timestamps, so you see the delay between one question and the other, how things evolve through the time. And I consider that it's pretty useful to use those type of things, especially when you start working in a team. It's crucial for us. It's crucial because the moment that you start messing things up, it becomes, well, chaotic and, well, unproductive. That is the end of this story, that you don't know. And also it's confusing. It's confusing at the most, and it's something pretty simple. But I think that, again, concepts matter. And the moment that you understand that a thread is a single source of truth, then everything becomes much more natural and much more easy to implement.
We can summarize this in a quote that I just tried to come up with. And Mary, you in the chat, you can say if this is a proper English that you come up with. Not using asynchronous communication, not using threads is a real threat to your productivity. So I have no idea about the pronunciation. The difference
Mary is
threats,
typing.
but
Okay, well said.
well said. Mary is just too kind all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
No
sure
matter
when
how we
we
say.
publish this publicly, so many people will say, man, stop YouTube. But thank you very much, Mary. Yeah, and also in ClickUp, it's a must that in the comments section we are using threads. When we communicate anything, it's in a thread. So can you update the asset in this way? Maybe the image or the designer communication. Look at this image, and we can comment on the image. So essentially, each thread becomes a single source of truth for the specific topic that you're discussing there. And if we have several things to discuss on a task, then we launch different comments as a starting point for threads. And we expect everybody to reply to the related topic. And whenever, and it happens to us as well, that we answer two things in one thread, but then at least we reference back to another topic. And that's easily done. Again, with the tools nowadays, all of them that we use, all of them have URLs or links to this specific block. So we can reference this anywhere else and cross-reference if we started to mess up or start a new thread. Mary says I had this exact issue in ClickUp and it drove me crazy until I finally went into the settings and found out how to fix it. So you're talking about hitting enter, I guess.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. It's something that is pretty useful. It's the first thing that I do in any tool whenever possible. I check if that's possible, and because I'm used to that. I'm using to press the command enter to send, and well, it's something that I constantly use. No, I was to keep going with the threads. Are so important that I don't know if many of us or not remember how the email clients began. They had no threads about conversations. And I remember when Google, at least it was for me the first client or service talking about email, that started creating those conversations, because at the beginning you just have like an inbox. It was well a really mess to drive through the different emails until, well, Google, or I don't know who was, but for me it was Google, created these conversations, and then you see a whole conversation based on the subject, and well, there you have all the thread of a conversation and email. So how
That's a good
useful
point.
they are, how useful they are, that even it was life changing talking about email management. And now we are used to conversations in any email client or many other places, but still in some messaging platforms, we don't follow that standards, and then that becomes messy at all and confusing. And well, it's really painful because it kills the flow. It makes difficult because when you need to reply to something you don't know what reply to, well, it's kind of chaotic. Also because in these applications you cannot move to a thread, a conversation, without, well, feeling unpolite and things like that. No, creating a thread and then making all the references to the messages, and well, it's well a little
Actually,
bit complicated. Yeah.
Actually, the example with the email is a good example what the paperless movement is all about and the initial mindset that I had behind launching this in 2018. That it's not about going paperless, but getting aware of the differences between being on paper and going paperless. That's also when I discussed the Remarkable, for example, which is much more towards paper than digital. I'm not saying it's a bad device. It's about the difference that you have in a digital system compared to a paper system. Because you see, with the emails, they started copying the normal physical mail conversations. So there you send a physical mail and you get a physical mail back without the original physical mail. You're not sending back the mail that you received, right? So everybody had just pieces of information on their end and it's not together. So in the digital world, now we have everything in one space and we see the context across the whole conversation. And this is one great example of mindset change when you work in digital systems. And it's another thing is with the folder structure, going to tags, right? Understanding this, that people always wanted to stay in one place. And there are many other examples, but just like this one as an example there as well. I think that was an interesting topic and we certainly will do another video and maybe even add it to the courses. Let's think about where we can add this. But Paco and I, we think it's such a crucial concept when it comes to team communication. Yeah, probably in the project management, like a pro course in
Yeah.
implementation part or so, or in the workflows even, where we talk about threads. That would be a good place. If you like this, let us know in the chat. And yeah, so that was just something we wanted to bring up.